I'm Stephanie Cole, and I'm obsessed with saying how poor I am and then ordering Uber Eats.
I'm Monique Hammond, and I'm obsessed with the fall of Constantinople. This is Modern Adults, the podcast where we explore the modern adult landscape and ask the dumb questions about adulthood so that you don't have to.
We really have no dignity. Coming up in the episode, we're talking about one of the trickiest things life has to offer. Kids. Should you have them? Not have them? Are you even with the right person? And should you have them now or later? Before you guys go, whoa, guys, this is a little bit too much. Like, I don't want to think about that now. Don't worry, we hear you. But we've been thinking about it and we've been doing a bit of research around it. And apparently, if you want to have kids in the future, you need to be thinking about it now and potentially planning for it now.
But I don't want to think about kids now.
Why not?
Okay.
Tell me why.
All right. So for me, I'm pretty on the fence about kids. I'm not saying I'll never have them, but I'm also not saying that I definitely will. And so for me, it's like, at the moment, I don't want kids. I can't see myself having kids in the next 5 years. I don't know about after that. We'll see. And I don't like knowing that I need to start planning for it now.
Is it because you're not sure if you want them? And so
I'm definitely not sure if I want them.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want that lifelong commitment. I don't know if I would make a good parent.
Yeah.
What if there's something wrong with them that I'm not equipped to handle? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, it's such a life-changing thing. Like, and I just can't comprehend that scope of like life-changing at my current age. So I try not to think about it.
How old are you?
I'm 25.
Okay, I'm 23 for reference. Guys, I know I definitely want kids.
Have you always known that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I think the older I get now, it's definitely something that I'm thinking about way more. And I always joke with Kate, and she hates this, that like if I would probably have a child tomorrow. It's like that bad. I love going into like Kmart and Target and looking at baby clothes. It's very bad.
Baby clothes. Baby clothes are fucking adorable.
Yeah.
Like, I love baby clothes. And like sometimes I see a baby and I'm like, oh, I love you. And then 20 minutes later, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
go away.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Why don't you think you want them? In terms of like, you've told me that you're not sure if you're prepared. Do you think
Yeah.
are you valuing, not that it's a bad thing, but
Yeah.
do you value your career a little bit more?
So I think there's lots of things to think about when having kids. For starters, money. I don't think I make enough money to give everything to a child that I'd want to give to them. Like, so for example, like one of my personal things is like I went to a private school and I feel like that set me up really well. And I understand that not everyone can afford that, but that's personally maybe something that I would like to do for my child. I couldn't do that currently. So that's like, money is a big thing. Career. I am in the very early stages of my career. It's a career definitely that you can be successful in when you have kids. Like, I'm surrounded by awesome women at work who have had kids and are still really successful in their field. And I'm like, yes, that's amazing. I'm like so glad to see that. But also, I don't know if I could be successful in my career field with kids. And I just kind of don't know if like I want the pressure of every decision I make really drastically affects the life of another human being that has no control over their life for a certain amount of time. And that's just a really scary thought. And that's something I'm not sure that I want to commit to yet. And I'm not saying no, I'm just saying not right now.
Okay, so my question to you about that is a lot of what I'm hearing right now is you just being afraid that you can't give them what they need, like private school, or like you're not sure if your career is going to facilitate that, which is all like really, really valid reasons. But if all of that was going to be fine and you could give them everything that you wanted and all that fear was just gone, would you still want a child, or would you still be hesitant about it?
I would still be hesitant because I just don't know if I ever want the responsibility of shaping a person and all the changes that they're going to have on my life. And I think like everyone's like, oh, having a kid's the best thing you'll ever do. And it probably is. But I also hear from other people that it's kind of the worst thing they ever did, you know?
Yeah,
and I think
okay.
that's in the minority. But I just don't know if I would make a good parent. Even if I had all the money in the world and I could give them everything and I could still do everything I wanted, I still don't know if that would make me personally a good parent. So I don't know if I want to inflict that upon a child.
Do you ever feel pressured by like outside?
Yeah, all the time.
Really?
Yeah, I do. So just like sometimes by family, like, you know, they're always like really excited, like, oh, you would make a great mom, you should have a baby. And I'm kind of like, you don't know me. So,
yeah,
you know, and I do feel pressured by external people to do things. And I also feel that there's like certain people in my life who, if I had a child, they would really want to have a lot of say and influence. And I'm not sure that I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, not interested for that reason. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard like balancing people's feelings. Like, for example, a really close family member was like an anti-vaxxer. It's like, well, you have to make the decision, like, can they or can't be around your child and like that sort of stuff. And then you like cause tension and, you know, that's just such a hard decision. And I just don't know if I want to make any of those right now.
That's fair. I think the point of this conversation right now is to even just like, I think it's good to talk about it, whether you want to or not, and to prepare. I know it feels early for some people to be thinking about this, but I know for women especially, we have this kind of ticking clock.
I think that's the other thing is like, it is a ticking clock as well. So it's like, maybe if I don't have kids by 28, maybe I don't want them because I don't want to be like, my parents are in their 50s and I'm like 25, and my parents' youngest son, my brother, is moving out of home, and now they're going to start doing stuff and they're 50, and I'm like, that's awesome, you can do stuff. But then if I have kids, I have kids when I'm 30, then I'm not going to be 50. I'm going to be much older by the time they start leaving home, and then I'm like, oh, I don't want that. So that's another like time pressure that I've put on myself.
I think it depends what kind of vision you have for your life and what kind of like value you want to put into the world. And like for me, it would give me a lot of joy kind of raising a child. And I don't think anybody should force themselves to think that they need to do that, because they don't. And like, I don't even think that you need to give birth to your own child. You can do it in so many other ways. If you have like that maternal instincts and whatnot, you can either adopt, you can foster, you could just be an auntie and like love your like nieces and nephews. There's so many ways you can do it. And I think a lot of women especially feel pressured to be having children when they probably shouldn't be having children. They should be doing other things with their life. And I think it's really unfortunate that a lot of women feel pressured to do so. Whether by their partners or by outside influences. I think it's definitely something that women and younger women our age need to be thinking about, because for generations it's just been the thing that women do, just have babies. But now we're in like an era where women have a choice in that, and it's becoming more and more common that women just live their life single, or they don't have children, or they focus on their career, and that's okay too.
Yeah, I think when I was younger, like much younger, like, you know, under 10, and I had baby dolls, and like I love that, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be a mum. And then I kind of grew up and I was like, oh shit, you don't have to be a parent if you don't want to. And like even as a teenager, people would be like, do you want kids? And I'm like, no, I'm never going to have kids. But I never seriously considered not having kids until I got to like in my 20s, and I was like, oh shit, I actually don't have to have kids. That's not a default. And from then I was kind of like, oh, do I actually want this? And I kind of examined myself and I was like, oh shit, maybe I don't.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's fair. I know I'm kind of the opposite to you.
Yeah,
where
and
I
I think that's
definitely
awesome. Like,
Yeah.
if you have a maternal instinct, you like anyone who cares about being a parent, it makes
Yeah.
a great parent, I think.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I know it's something that I obsessively think about in every like life decision I make. I'm like, okay, is this going to impact me having a
Yeah.
family? And the only reason why I would want to set up like saving goals now, like we talk about like money on our Rack City segments. And for me, it's mainly every decision I make is about supporting a family. And
So does that come down to like money, career, family,
Yeah.
like partner?
Yeah. So at the moment, I when I got in a relationship with Kate, I was just out of uni, and for me it became really, really important that I got a job, because I wanted to be able to be someone that Kate could rely on, because when I got into a relationship with her, I was like, oh, I never want to lose this. I want to be with you forever. So it became really important for me to become someone who is stable for her to be able to rely on and for us to build on.
Yeah.
Because she's like the most important person in my life. So I want to be able to support whatever we want to do together.
Yeah.
And so everything I do now is either it's for myself and for her to be able to build a life together on that. So for me, I know I'm 23 now, I would probably be considering having kids by like 26 or 27.
Okay, so that's like quite soon.
Yeah.
So if you realistically wanted to have kids then, you would need to have a pretty stable job.
Yes.
Yep. Making a fair, I don't know how much money kids cost. I've heard it's a lot. Haven't really interrogated that.
Yeah.
Making like a decent amount of money, because don't want to drop too much of your current lifestyle to
I don't mind. Like, I'm not someone who needs a lot of stuff. I just need like what I need.
I need a lot of stuff, so I don't want to drop any of my current lifestyle.
No. Like although unfortunately the things that I need are often very expensive because I work in media, and so when I say I need something, I need a $3,000 camera this week, and so I need to go spend that, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, brutal.
For everyone involved. Kate just like tenses and twitches a little when I'm like on like a camera site looking at new lenses and stuff. But
and what does Kate want for you guys to have children? Like, I assume you've discussed this and you're both on the same page.
Yeah, definitely. So we do kind of discuss like marriage and like kids all the time. Yeah. It's something that we both definitely want. Probably within the next year or two, we would be looking at like thinking about getting engaged and stuff like that.
Yeah. So do you want to be married before you have kids?
I think so.
Is there any particular reason?
I think it's more like I keep saying, okay, let's have a baby now. And she's like, no, let's get married first. So I think it's more
a Kate thing.
Yeah, more a Kate thing. Sorry, babe. She just kind of wants, like, she's always had like an idea in her head of what it was going to be like. So if that's what we're going to do, it's what we're going to do. But it doesn't really bother me. I think it's more having something for ourselves before we include someone else. Yeah. So for us, it's more about having like a wedding and celebrating our love for each other,
and then
adding to it. Yeah. So keeping that for ourselves and then building on that. I think that's what we kind of want to do together.
Yeah.
And then I guess as well, the other factor is that we're in a lesbian relationship.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. So different considerations.
Yeah.
Can't get accidentally knocked up. No poking holes in condoms, Stephanie.
I know. So that's another thing we have to consider. So that's another added layer of complication on top of that. But for me, it's something that I have already put things in place to start saving for IVF, because IVF is very, very expensive and it may not even work. So we need to have plans in place for what we're going to do if we can't get pregnant from that.
So have you decided that that you'll first go for IVF before considering adoption? Or are you not considering adoption?
So we are definitely, I think for us, and like completely admire anyone who just like wants to adopt and foster children.
I do too. I'm really so happy those people exist.
Me too. I think again, it's like everyone has like this selfish like fantasy of having your own child.
Yeah.
And I think I definitely have that. And so we would definitely have a go at IVF ourselves before we look into adoption. But it's definitely something that we have talked about. I do know the adoption process is very long.
Yeah.
And fostering is another beast in itself. And I think the problem with fostering for us is that we would love to do it, but we just can't bear the thought of bringing a child into our home and like falling in love with it and then it being taken away from us.
See, that's so interesting because fostering is the only kind of parenting where I'm like, oh yeah, I'd give that a go. In that I think I would like to be a stable place for people to come before they make their forever home. Like I'd be, I think, a good transition to that.
Yeah.
You know, but anyway.
Yeah, so that's something that we have considered as well with adoption. But I think IVF is, out of everything I know, like with adoption and fostering, you already have a ready-made like child, but it's really not that simple. There's like a lot of procedures in place before you are able to you're able to adopt a child. And it's like it can take years for that process. But for us, we have been looking into IVF stuff, and I already have like accounts in place that I'm putting money into for like that.
So have you and Kate discussed like how you're going to pick the sperm donor and who's going to carry it and like all that stuff, or is that still a bit undecided?
That is undecided.
Yeah, okay. Would you pick someone you know for a sperm donor, or would you definitely?
Oh, no.
Yeah, okay, because I'm always like freaked out when people do that. I'm like, oh God.
No, because then like...
What if they like want the kid? Like,
I know.
No, because so much safer to go through
they
adoption.
do kind of technically have some kind of legal right unless it's fully... Like, you'd have to have lawyers involved, and then that costs money. And I just, with like the sperm banks, it's all kind of like legally already
it's like a step away, and there's no emotional involvement.
Oh yeah. That's probably the biggest thing. We want to be able to be like the sole parents of our child. We don't want to have any other third party coming into it and ruining it.
What happens if when your kid grows up, they want to try and find their sperm donor? Is that the correct term? The sperm donor that spermed them?
I don't know. Like, we've spoken about like what if we adopted a child and like they wanted to find their real birth parents, which is, I think it would honestly probably hurt a little bit because we have put this investment into a child, but I'm never going to like stop a child from finding out.
I don't think you can even
try. Exactly. And I think everyone wants to know where they come from and their history and whatnot. So
that's so random. I don't know. If I found out I was adopted tomorrow, I would have no interest in finding my adopted parents.
Yeah.
I know that people do, but I'm just like, nah, I'm pretty fine.
But there's always a reason. It's not for like the sake of doing it, and either you want to or you don't want to. I don't know. But so that is something I'm thinking about now. And unfortunately for me, it is something that I have to plan more, which is why it's been on my mind a little bit, because I'm obviously not, I don't have lots of money that I can just throw at IVF, and it's not something that health insurance can cover. It's something that's very much out of pocket.
Yeah.
And it can cost up to like $10,000 per round, even more than that, and it might not even work, which is the most
stressful part.
Stressful part of that. But also the thing with IVF is that it's very easy to get twins.
Oh my God. See, look, here's the thing. If I was going to have kids, fuck yes for twins. Like, It's kind of like one and done, but you get 2.
Yeah.
Easy.
I know,
Fuck
but what
yes.
happens if we go for a second round we go again and it's fine the first time getting twins, like heck yeah, I've got
Then you're
2 for
done.
1. But what if I wanted one more child and then I got
then
triplets?
That's the possibility. Oh my God. Triplets, I'm a hard no on triplets.
But I think we have spoken about how many kids that we want. We've kind of settled on 2 with the potential for 3.
How many kids do you want?
I wanted 5 and Kate was 2.
Oh my God. Jeez. Yeah.
But it's fine. Ever since we got Harry, my dog, my number has come down.
Yes. Okay. Kids are hard work. And yeah. So do you and Kate talk about I guess the values you'd instill in your children? Because I know even though Jamie and I haven't quite decided if we're going to have kids, we do kind of talk about that. If we had kids, we would want to not raise them with any religion, or would want to send them to a private school, or we'd want to, I don't know, other value, insert here.
We weirdly talk about this all the time because it'll come up in conversation where I'm like, oh, I'm so against this. I would never let my child do that. And then Kate would be like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
The other day we were actually talking about, because Kate went to private school and I went to a public school. So I have no kind of feelings either way. And I have my own values around the educational system, where I know for me it failed me a little bit creatively because I wanted to go down more of a creative path, and school doesn't really support that. And what I do understand the way it works is to kind of teach your child responsibility and doing things they don't want to do, and I completely support that. But what it didn't set up for me was an understanding that there was more possible for me.
Oh yeah.
And so for me, that's a really important thing when thinking about what school my child goes to. And I know I can support them in other ways and discovering that and facilitating that for them. My issue is I don't like private schools and the way they teach because it's very traditional.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, actually the majority of the time, it has religion attached to it.
That's so interesting because I went to a private school for the last couple of years of high school, and I feel like had I been in a public school, I would have done much poorer with my education because they really supported me. The religion aspect, I'm not religious. I'm actually quite anti-religion.
Yep.
I don't necessarily think it has any place in schools, but I also went to several Catholic schools and private schools, and I feel like that was always something you could kind of opt out of. Yes, you'd have compulsory classes, but it wasn't religion. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And I also thought that my high school really actually fostered a love of the arts in me that I didn't get in public schools, because I had the option to do drama lessons, and I had the option to play an instrument, and I had a massive theater to work with, and really great media facilities, and I feel like it had the facilities to foster an arts education better than any public school I ever went to. And so I find it really interesting that you don't consider private schools for that.
No, I'm honestly just speaking from my own experience. I obviously don't know what the school systems are like now, but it'd be definitely something that's on my mind when considering a school, because I did go to a private school for 2 years of my life, and that was heavily religion based, and so that is something that I do agree that they did support my education a lot more in a private school, whereas the public schools that I went to, it was a bit more relaxed. It wasn't really enforced too much. There was only so much they could do with the child before they didn't have the It's not that they didn't care, it's just a lack of resources in public schools. So that was more that issue. But I would say for me, something that I valued about the public school, and it wasn't that they did anything necessarily that pushed me in this path, but it did teach me to fight a little bit more for what I don't know how to explain it, but like I had to discover things for myself.
Yeah, okay.
And so that's something that I had to really push. If I wanted to learn something, I had to take the initiative to do it. Whereas I felt like when I was in the private school, I just had to do it because that was the system they created.
Yeah.
And I know not everybody thinks that way. And I think I was probably maybe very well supported at home to like take initiative and whatnot. And so I know not everybody has that mindset or is fortunate enough to kind of have those realizations in their life.
But what does Kate think about schools?
Kate wants our child to go to a private school because she went to a private school from like kindergarten to grade 12.
No, I'd only go from year 6 to year 12, but anyway.
And so she liked her high school and her school up until like leaving. And so she really liked the education system there. And I completely understand and all of that. But we have arguments all the time about like whether the private school is best or if public school is best. And she is very firmly sitting on like our child is going to a private school. And I am very much like, why does it matter?
Was her private school particularly religious?
It was religious, but it wasn't like enforced.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I have it also a thing about religion as well, because obviously any child of mine is going to have two mums.
Yeah.
And going into a religious-based school, they may not be accepted very well. And I think maybe in any school they might have an issue with that, which is going to be a challenge for us. But I don't want any child of mine going into a private religious school and then being told that their like parents are sinners and that like it's disgusting. And so that is a battle in itself. And I know when Kate went to school, she didn't have that issue because she had one mum and one dad.
Yeah.
Whereas any child of us would have one mum and one mum.
Yeah.
So there's a massive difference there. And
of course, yeah.
I just don't want to put my child in a position where they could be taught at school that their parents' relationship is not right. That's what I'm trying to avoid.
Okay. I understand that. Yeah, I totally do. And maybe we'll get back a bit on topic. Maybe so we were talking about how like you and Kate's morals and values line up together.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting that it seems like you both want the same thing, but you just don't know how to get it. And so I wish you and Kate the best of luck in that. I'm on Kate's side. But yeah, there's just, so many issues that come up with kids. Like how much do you want your family to be involved? Like, will you take them traveling? What happens if you're moving? What happens if they turn out to be like Taylor Swift level good? Are you going to move to Nashville? Like, who knows?
I think this is definitely a topic we might keep exploring because this has been really interesting, actually. It's so multifaceted that I really do want to kind of explore it maybe as well with like the workplace and talking to your employer about it. And I know Monique has a lot of opinions on this, but that's for another episode.
It definitely is. We've one last point I would like to make is gynecologists. You should get a checkup. This is just everyone's annual reminder to go and do that because I know I'm shit at it. But yeah, like women's health, not particularly around childbearing, but like women's health in general in terms of uteruses. Make sure you keep on top of that because you don't want to find out you've got chlamydia 10 years down the line and you can't have kids. I don't know if that's what chlamydia actually does. But anyway.
Okay, we're going to end it there.
Sorry.
That's it for today's episode. You've been listening to Modern Adults. If you'd like to stay in contact or share your thoughts about the episode, head to our Facebook page, Modern Adults Podcast.
If you like what you hear, please leave a review on iTunes and spread the word. Honestly, it really helps us out when you share it with a friend, even just one. And that's our challenge to you this week.